It is a huge challenge to present after Kent, so I hope this is going to go well. But I think Kent has been presenting, and he has been talking about the journeys that he has done during, his long experience in the group. And in all these journeys, it was one journey that it was common to all of them, that it was imagination. So if you are at the Media Lab, you have to use imagination. That's a must. And that's something that I think all of you have to, you have a lot of this imagination. So, but how do we work with imagination? That's a huge challenge. And since a couple of years, we have been doing reimagining workshops, like one was in Guipúzcoa, reimagining mobility. So we like to reimagine, no? Because for imagination, most of the time you have to look into the present, the things that they are working properly, but also imagining the things that they can be improved, okay? And that's the role of technology, okay? Technology is just a tool that helps us to reimagine the future and to reimagine the things that they are not working well today, but we have to learn how to keep also the things that they are working, okay? So I'm gonna go through a journey. It's gonna be some overlappings with Ken's presentation, but with the lenses and perspective of reimagining human-centric cities, okay? So let's try. Historically, if we look into cities, during 12,000 years, the cities, they used to be these vibrant networks where you used to have walkable communities, very diverse, diverse group of people sharing ideas and sharing, not only ideas, but also it was low-income people and high-income people working together, what we call unlikely partners. And when you have unlikely partners working together, what you have is innovation. And that was happening in a very, not forced way. It was happening just in a natural way, let's say. And these cities, they were connected with other cities through roads, rivers, and lakes. It was a very sweet spot, like in the 1800s and the 1900s, where we used to have also a horizontal city, where you used to have, it was the shop in this level, in the first level, then you have the owner of the shop, then in the next level, you used to have the people that it was working on the shop, in the next, the people cooking and cleaning in the building, and in the top part of the building, you used to have the low-income people. The artists, the architects, we were living there. Why? Because it was only one client. It was like the king and the royalty, very few clients for a lot of people. So we were like low-income, architects, I'm sorry. And maybe we are still there, I don't know. So the thing is that innovation happened when the new bourgeoisie, these new high-income people, they start looking into the artists and the architects, and they were like, wow, we are very interested on what these people are doing, so what if we invest on them, okay? So they start investing in the Picassos and all these people, and then Art Nouveau emerged, that Art Nouveau is the new art for the bourgeoisie, emerged from that collaboration, and now this kind of art has become one of the engines of the economy today. So that's how unlikely partners working together. This is just a very easy example. If you look into the data, this is very clear, but this is a good example of how unlikely partners working together, they foster innovation, okay? So this is another sweet spot in the history of cities. This is the first deployment of the tram in Barcelona. And as you can see, it's 100 years ago. And the city was still designed for humans. So it was kind of like this very vibrant place where you have humans and different kind of vehicles. The interesting thing is that this happened in between that image and today. Ford and Rockefeller, they start thinking about what if we start producing mass production of cars that they are very affordable so everybody can have a car. So the technology, they implement a technology, they inoculate a technology in the cities that will change the history, okay? The thing here is that the technology itself didn't work, to be honest, but they combined that with the American dream. The American dream is fantastic because it's talking about freedom and that's good opportunities, that's the very good part, but the problem with the American dream is that it's car-oriented, okay? All of these good things are coming with a car. And it's a little bit, because the man is going to the city to work and the woman was staying at home and everything was getting into the house through cars, the milk, the newspaper. So, okay, so it was biased and it was, but the thing is that technology combined with an idea, that's what fosters also innovation, okay? So thanks to that, only in 50 years, the cities change. So 12,000 years of evolution of cities was changed in 50 years. This is Boston. This is Kevin Lynch, a professor from MIT, that he put a camera in his car, and he is showing us that it's no longer an ecosystem for human, it's an ecosystem for cars. Only 50 years. And today, and I have changed this image because I was showing the same image since 10 years, but this is Boston this year. That is coming the top congested city in the United States. So, and this is kind of like the normal, like setting for our cities today, which is kind of sad. So, but people are thinking, oh, no, let's look into the Media Lab, into MIT, and because technology is going to change everything. This is the utopia of technology. We are going to have AI that is going to be, we are going to have intelligent cars connected with intelligent houses, with smart buildings, smart robots. Okay, yeah, I think this is not even the future. This is the present. Most of this technology, we already have it, but we have not deployed this technology. Why? Because technology is just a tool, and it depends how humans we want to use that technology. That's the way that is going to be implemented. And the problem is humans, we are based on this, predation, okay? Yeah. When I talk with people at Harvard and Sloan, the very smart economists, I am asking, guys, why we are basing our economy on this idea of big fish is eating a small fish? It doesn't make sense. And they are like, Luis, don't think about this. That's nature. In nature, the big fish is eating the small fish, and that's it. So don't think about it. That's not true, okay? This is nature, okay? So resilient ecosystems are based on mutualism, okay? 85% of the ecosystems that are resilient, they are based on win-win situations. So this bird has modified the peak during hundreds and thousands of years, eat from the flower, and the flower has modified the shape of the flower to be pollinized. This is also, like American dream win-win, It's very interesting because predation is 5% of the ecosystem, and it's only for cleaning the ecosystem from, let's say, animals that they are sick or old, etc. So what is happening with the humans that we are basing our culture and our economy in the thing that is cleaning the ecosystem? I don't know. But if we keep in this path, this is what we are going to face. It's what I call the IoT bubble tower, okay? So this is, if you have the car from Tesla that is not communicating and working with the network of Huawei or Cisco, then this is what you are going to have. You are going to have companies working in silos, very smart technology, but doesn't communicate with each other, okay? So you don't have a mutualistic ecosystem. What you have is an individualistic ecosystem. And we have said that diversity and mutualism is bringing innovation. So the opposite, individualism, is not bringing that much innovation. So in the group, what we are trying to do is taking the best from the past, the present, and the future of cities to reimagining the city of the future, okay? With the human in the center. Okay, yeah, that's fantastic, but how are we going to do that? I think Kent's presentation already has given us, like the tools, but let me revisit a little bit and go a little bit one step back, because we are at the Media Lab, okay? So in our group, when we start thinking about a new idea or something, first we think like the Media Lab, and we have taken from the Media Lab, this is almost all history, but I like the principles. I'm keeping the principles, because at the Media Lab we have these kind of principles. I think students, you used to like a lot disobedience over compliance. You used to, but I think today you are more in the compliance than in the disobedience. I don't know. I think new generations, you are less disobedient, which is okay. I am not saying anything, but but I like a lot this one here, compass over maps. Why? Because today we are here. This is point A, okay? And when you have an idea, that's already a point in the future, okay? And I am coming from Europe. I don't know other places. Well, I kind of know, but let's say I don't know. In Europe, at least, when you have an idea, they say you have to pre-cook a lot that idea. That point B needs to be very clear, okay? And then you pre-cook that, and you kill a little bit the innovation, you kill a little bit the idea, and the only thing that connects 2 points is one line, okay? Engineers, they have solved this already, and they are like, oh, this is the roadmap, January, February, in October, you are going to be there. That's perfect, okay? Okay, the roadmap. So the problem is you are starting the journey, and then you run out of money. or there is a huge crisis in the world, I don't know, like a pandemic, who knows. So then that's a failure, okay? And at least in Europe, failure is not good. People doesn't trust you after crashing, etc. So what we are thinking here is like, what if you have a cloud of points B, okay? So instead of, when you have an idea, instead of pre-cooking that idea, what if you just try to say, okay, more or less, I want to get into this cloud of points, and then you start making an iteration. In the first iteration, you learn what is working and what is not working, and you keep making iteration after iteration, and at the end, you're going to get into a point, number 32, that is going to be very similar to your idea, but it's going to be innovative, it's going to be super fresh, and probably it's going to be new even for you. In the process, a lot of times, we get into a point C. Actually, 90% of the innovation happens this way. Like Madame Curie, she discovers radioactivity, not because she was trying to find radioactivity. It was like finding different chemical elements, and then she discovered radioactivity. So this is very important. Like sometimes when you're exploring, maybe you will find something even better than your previous idea. Other tool that we have in the group is the City Science Network. Kent already has talked about this because it doesn't make sense MIT going into a city and say, hey, this is what you need. No, no, no. What we are trying to do is to build different sister labs where the expert in the city, we collaborate with them. And we transfer technology and knowledge so we can work together with them. Other tool is the City Science process. And this is kind of, well, based on science. So the first thing that you do when you try to approach something in the scientific way is the research question, okay? It's like, okay, what is the research question that we have in this city? What is the challenge? Of course, you have thousands of challenges, but what is the most important challenge? Then transformation is, okay, what are the possible solutions? So you list the solutions. Prediction, then you simulate all that possible solutions. So if you have solutions and a challenge, if you have data, you can make simulations and see what is the impact of that solution. Then once that you choose a good solution, what you need to have is the deployment. And in order to have the deployment, what you have is consensus and governance in order to be successful. And of course, we have 3 tools. Ken already has went through that. So the Cityscope, big data, so we can build digital twins or we can digitalize the city, and then we can make these questions. We can be like, okay, what can happen if I deploy this policy? What if I deploy this technology in the city? What is going to be the socioeconomical and environmental impact? But then also we have autonomous mobility, and of course, we have the robotic housing. The autonomous mobility is because it doesn't make sense to have 2 tons of steel and iron in a city that can go 120 kilometers per hour, that is stuck every day in the same congestion, and today is not even moving people, it's moving a hamburger. No, because we have ordered Uber Eats or whatever. So what if we can remove the cars from the city and we start bringing micro-mobility in order to support public transportation? And then the robotic architecture is not only because it's cool. I mean, that was the first project where I arrived to the group and I was in love with Ivan and Asier and Kent. But it's not because of that. It's because if you have a small housing that is transformable, then you can have more accessible housing for middle and low-income people in the city. So if you combine this with policies, maybe you can bring more housing in the city because it's more compact. So then you can bring diversity into the city centers. Okay, these are the tools, but I think this is the most important tool, imagination, okay? Science fiction. Once again, you are at the Media Lab. So in this class, we are going to ask you to use your imagination. We are going to ask you to use this tool because we want you to look into our work and give us your opinion and expand that idea. So this is quite important. So this is the class that probably we are going to do next semester as well. Every 2 semesters, we try to have this class that is City Sci-Fi. Gabi is leading that class with Kent. And this is some of the work from the students that we did last year, actually. But why science fiction is part of the science and the Media Lab? Because this is the beginning. So Nicolás Negroponte in 1986, he was looking into this movie and he was like, this is a Space Odyssey. How many of you have watched this movie? Okay. So in a Space Odyssey, it's like astronauts in a spaceship. They are having lunch, and they are watching, a touch screen over there. So, so somebody was like, oh, I want to make a touch screen. So in 1971, it was already a university in London, and people from MIT already exploring a touch screen, okay? That's kind of, you are young, but this is, for me, this is impressive. But by the time that Ken was refurbishing Mies van der Rohe house, these people were starting to make the first touch screen. So this is how in parallel things happen. So when Ken was refurbishing Mies van der Rohe house, the Media Lab was starting, and this was the first touch screen in 1981. And what Andy is playing here, this is one professor actually from the MIT, you can talk with him, is Google Street View, okay? So like Kevin Lynch, somebody had put a camera on top of the car, they made a video of the entire Kendall Square, and then in the touch screen, you could navigate, and that's, well, a couple of years, some years ago. The most important thing is that that idea, that dream, that science fiction, it took 30 years to become real. So the first iPhone with a touch screen was 2007, and the first Google Street View was also 2007. So, makes sense, isn't it? But 30 years, okay? How fast is ChatGPT being developed these days? Every 3 months, every 6 months, you have something new. So that's kind of, how fast is happening innovation these days. But the Media Lab, from the Media Lab, we have helped to push out there like augmented reality, virtual reality. We have invented Scratch, Lego Mindstorms, robotic prostheses, the Guitar Hero, the wearables, GPS, the digital link, personal robots, micromobility. So I think in this building, you can find that people that is thinking about, the future. And imagining the future is not that easy. No. Architects. Every time that we have to face a new building, we always are like, oh, it should be a temple. Like the first time that we have to make a train station, of course, we were like, oh, it is a temple. It is, in this case, it's a cathedral, because we have no idea how a train station look like. So we have to invent it, and we, humans, we are so limited. So we did this. Okay, why not? But we are still building like Romans. This is something that Asier and I, we agree on all the time. Like our houses, they are more or less like the houses 2,000 years ago, at least in the Western world, okay? So that's kind of interesting. Of course, at the Media Lab, you can find people like Asier, like Kent, like Ivan, that they start projects reimagining housing. But engineers, they are not much better than us, okay? So this is also very interesting. So the first time that they removed the horses from a carriage or from a car, very few people could imagine that a car was going to be something like this, okay? So yeah, for people at that time, it was like, okay, so we remove the animals, but we have to keep some part of the animal there. So they started making these patterns about attaching the head of the horse into the car. So this is how limited is our imagination, seriously. However, there are people that they can look very far in the future. This is a suffragist in London, 1916, 100 years ago. Because the suffragists, they were like, no, we are not going to be sitting. We want to move standing. Because that was the idea. Okay, so they push innovation 100 years. Okay, so that's what we want to have. This is what we want to do with you. And in the group, we have been exploring different mobility choices. Ken has explained some of them, but we also have like electric scooters that they were foldable, and many other stuff in the group. But the most interesting thing is evolution of technology as well, because Ken has shown the first persuasive electric vehicle, but the first test, one of the first tests was in Andorra, 2017, and this is what we bring into Andorra. Okay, so everybody was expecting in Andorra to have, an autonomous car that it was going to be crazy, and we deployed this, and people were like, "Wow, okay, what is this?" But what we explained 1 year later, it was like, yeah, technology doesn't grow in a tree. So you have to keep trying technology, learn from the technology, and this was already 2018. In 2019, we already built the first prototype with Denso, a member company from the Media Lab. Then we had the pandemic, and now we have, in 2024, we have a full prototype that could be probably put in the streets tomorrow. So why we don't have autonomous vehicles today in our streets? Have an answer? No?
Lower carbon emission?
That's why we don't have it, or?
Oh, I felt like why we have it.
No, why we don't have it.
Culture. Cost.
Cost?
Law. People try to push it over to destroy it.
Because it's, yeah, people can destroy the autonomous vehicles. Sure, I don't know, yeah.
Maybe it's too fast of change. I don't know. People refuse to use new technologies.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that part, the human side. Okay, all of you are talking a little bit about the human side, and because the technology is there, these guys are autonomous. You put it out there, and they can drive autonomously. But the thing is that humans, we have not agreed on how to deploy this technology. So one other autonomous vehicle, for instance, that is a plane. Okay, the plane is almost autonomous, and we have agreed as humans how the ecosystem of the plane needs to work. Okay, it needs to be a mutualistic ecosystem where you have likely partners working together. So when a plane crash, enemy companies, they have to share data and say, okay, this was the problem, so we have to fix it together. But even when the plane is moving, maybe there is something over there that doesn't know what it is. So it's sharing data with other planes, and they are looking into the same spot and trying to say, okay, what is this thing that we don't know? Maybe the plane doesn't know, so they talk with the tower. And everybody together, maybe the towers are in countries that they are not friendly countries with the plane, but even with that, they share data. So everybody has agreed about sharing data in a mutualistic way. Even with that, we have UFOs. I am not talking about extraterrestrial kind of artifacts. I am just saying that even with that, even in that mutualistic ecosystem where everybody is sharing data, you still have a blank spot that maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a balloon, I don't know. But sometimes the system don't understand what it is. So how many UFOs can have the Tesla car? Okay, a Tesla car that cannot ask other vehicles, cannot ask to the smart city, cannot ask to anyone, you know, what I have in front of me. So that's quite important. The most important thing is that when we are imagining something in the future, when we are imagining a tool or a technology, we have to imagine the ecosystem, what we call the iceberg. You have to imagine how humans are going to be using that technology and why we are producing that technology. What is the goal of this technology? So that's one point. The interesting thing is that if this project that Naroa has done is, I think, I don't want to screw it because Ken already jumped over it, but do you see this small vehicle that is autonomous? Naroa will explain it better than me, but if you have a mutualistic ecosystem where the entire city is sharing data, you can have an autonomous vehicle that is less expensive than the PEV, much, much less expensive, and is much, much secure. So I think, in 2 or 3 weeks, Naroa will talk about this, but that's how a mutualistic ecosystem can help you to have technology in a place. But the most important thing, for that, having that, you need to have the humans agreeing on how do you want to have that technology deployed. But to be honest, we are not doing all of this about the smart cities and data because we want to have autonomous vehicles. This is the most challenging thing for humans, decisions and uncertainty. Okay, so humans, since the very beginning, more than 3,000 years ago, we were already using the best technology that we had at that time. In Stone Age, it was stones, to try to predict the future. And in this case, we were trying to predict, okay, when is going to be the fall or winter or summer. Then when we became sedentaries, we started to predict a little bit, okay, when is going to be rainy, when is going to be sunny. Then we try to predict. Oh.
I have a quick question. So how do you determine if the public is ready for deployment?
That's a fantastic idea. I don't know. That's a good marketing question. I don't know. Do you have an idea?
Not really, because what I'm thinking is like Tesla has been deployed, but like there's so very much uncertainties and also like this new stuff that you're talking about. So I feel like is it a matter of people being ready and then deploy, or is it a deploy and then people get used to that?
Yeah, historically you had both options. The most predominant is you make the product and then you make the need of the product into the society. That's the car. So when Ford and Rockefeller, they made the mass production of cars, nobody needed the car because everybody was using trains. So, but then they were like, okay, let's build this idea of the American dream, needing the car for having the American dream. So then they were selling the idea that you need this technology, okay? The problem here is that yeah, the world has become more sophisticated and this is not that easy anymore, but yeah, so most of the time, usually, you have the technology and they try to convince you to use the technology. Internet was the same thing. They produced internet and then it took us 20 years to embrace internet. So yeah, it's a good question. I don't know, I mean like, it's not my, it could be a fantastic research actually to do.
And also I was thinking because these build on data, so if like they actually get deployed, then there's going to be tons more data coming in. Maybe that would be also a very good place to start to like, go forward to a next level technology.
What do you mean with that?
When they start, because so what I feel like, I'm not really sure, it's not in this field, but like when these things get deployed, then every like those micro autonomous stuff, then they could feed back into the data loop, like build in a larger data like database, telling us how are people using them and how are they interacting with them, like the idea thing that we just looked at.
Yeah.
So if we let that database available, then maybe we could improve the little autonomous vehicle, and then they could be more transparent to the public, and also with a more mature technology that everyone can trust.
Okay, yeah, we could have a new class related to that, but yeah, more and more often people selling technology. Now there are these robots that they are learning how to use every single coffee machine in different houses, so or Roombas that they are learning from different houses and they are sharing data. So I think you are right. I think it's happening already. Like, yeah, when you have a huge amount of data, then you can learn from that data and improve the technology, and that's already happening. But we should, yeah, I think that's another class and another. But it's a good question, yeah. Okay, so. Going back to prediction, when you have this huge amount of data, actually, that's how you can do prediction, okay? So that's, people are talking about AI since long, I mean, now like, oh, this is something new. No. We have been using AI since long time ago. I mean, when we were talking about linear regression, or when we were using, yeah, like neuronal networks. I mean, that's already the first steps of AI. And thanks to that, we can predict stuff. So that's, we were using prediction tools for economy. Now we have prediction tools in our own phone. So this is kind of prediction of the future of how are we going to move almost real time. No? So that's fantastic. And Jervis, I mean, Iron Man, this is already happening. If you go into the third floor here, Patty, she has already a couple of these guys that can help you. I mean, I am losing my glasses all the time, and Patty has actually this video of a person saying, where are my glasses? And then the AI is telling you, oh, they are on the table. And you go, oh, thank you. So this is already happening, so it's not future, but it's funny that we are very advanced on that, but our group is, let's say, the first group that is using these technologies to understand design on cities, like urban design and how policies and technology are going to change our cities. So that's kind of, I would say that it's fantastic because Kent is my boss and, and I'm here, but it's kind of scary that there are not huge amount of people already working on this. But Ken already has showed that. So this platform that we are using to predict the impact of technologies and policies in cities, the name is Cityscope, and of course is using a big amount of data. But also, we are translating that data into something that humans can understand. So that's what we call KPIs. These are socioeconomical and environmental KPIs, but this is still kind of a challenging kind of visualization. So for architects, that we are much more visual, we have heat maps where you have red is bad, green is good, and you project that in the city. So that's kind of something simple that everybody can understand. When we put that together, we have this kind of multi-level, multi-layer kind of platform where you can have unlikely partners making decisions together around this table. So you can have architects, engineers, but also the citizens and the government and the industry around this table and understanding what is the impact of the decisions that we are making. Ken has explained a little bit about that. And I want to finish with the power of without. Ken also has talked about this a bit, but I think when we talk about imagination, once again, we have to look into the already existing imagination because it's crazy. So when we look into the power of without, we start this 2018 with Norman Foster and the Interdevelopment Bank, and the idea was like, okay, if somebody asks me how is going to be the city of the future probably is going to be a slum or an informal settlement, because 90% of the cities of the future are going to be built in the global south, and a huge amount of that percentage, probably also 90% of that percentage is going to be informal. So if our name is city science, we have to start looking into that. If we think on cities, we have to think about that urban growth. What we are saying is that 3.5 billion people will be living in communities without infrastructure. Just bringing the current infrastructure to them, the traditional one, the heavy infrastructure, it will need the GDP combined of United States, China, and Europe. So that means that probably we are not going to do that, isn't it? I mean, like investing that huge amount of money. So the premise of this research was like, how can we bring lightweight infrastructure to these communities? So we started working in 2018, this same class, same room. If you look into this is the same room with our students, and our students, they were working with different communities to try to work with them with different innovations and trying to help them to figure out how to filter water or how to figure out how to have a better growth of plants. This was kind of like a very cool success, but unfortunately the pandemic happened. So then we had a small gap here. This is the job from Jorin, one of our master students, that this year she went to Ghana and she's working with this community in Ghana that they are working with electric waste, okay? And these people, they are getting electric waste and they are building their own materials, their own drones, their own computers out of that electric waste. So, I mean, this is innovation. This is amazing. So I think this is quite important. Like, sorry, because the video is, I feel like this is a drone over there that can fly, a computer. So when we look into innovation, please, you have to have the eyes very, big, looking into everything because it's happening around us. With Guadalajara in Mexico, we are working with Lomas del Centinela, the same place where Ken was showing the sensors. And just because we are having a meeting every week with them, they start organizing. We are just listening to them. They have the innovation, we are just listening to them, and they have this issue with the water. That's why Andres is working on deploying sensors and explaining and helping them to understand the use of water and how good idea is to gather water from the rain. But also we help them to bring vernacular technology from Africa in order to grow gardens with almost no water. So the name is Keyhole, and with the waste, the organic waste, you just put it there, and that fertilizes and brings water for the new grow. And then they are organizing their own bakeries, so they are making their own business out of that. Also, they have organized and they have made their own census, so they can ask for more water to the government. And they have also get training as firefighters because the community is in the middle of a forest, and they have fires every year, and they want to take care of the forest. The training was made in Canada and Madrid and Spain, so they're very good trained, and now the federal government is asking them for help. So that's kind of cool. The most important thing is that just because we are listening to them, they have organized and they are taking care of their community, okay? So Kent is one of the pioneers of this concept of smart cities. Probably most of these ideas, green cities, etc., have been floating around, but we always say that we are beyond smart cities, beyond green cities. So what we are really looking at is how can we reimagine cities, but always keeping the human in the center, okay? I think that's the most important idea for today, and that's it. Thank you. This is the work of a huge team, and well, I think it's going to be exciting. So thank you very much.